Hi guys, it's Kelo here from ManCharge, and I just decided to shoot a quick video about this customer feedback repository. I think it will be the best way to explain to you how this Airtable works. For those of you that are not familiar with Airtable, it's a very powerful but also lightweight database. It's similar in a way to how Google Spreadsheet works, but much more user-friendly, and there's some other nice features that I'm using to collect data. So if you want to use the template, you have to register for Airtable, but I highly encourage you to go out and check it out and make an account there. So the customer feedback database, it's the place where I collect all of the customer feedback information, and this is the one that I'm currently using for collecting feedback for ManCharge. It's still very early stage for us, so right now I've only interviewed one person, and as a rule of thumb, I prefer to only collect feedback of people that I have interviewed on the phone, or at least have a very deep, long chat conversation online. Uh, Otherwise, if you keep notes of people that give you some very brief, very unclear feedback, then this might skew your opinion in some ways that you don't want to. So what I'm trying to say is only collect feedback for sessions that are very thorough, very deep, and keep out the ones that are like lukewarm, uh, small, brief online chats like this looks cool, this looks interesting, and stuff like that. Uh, all right, so at the top we have five tabs: feedback, people, companies, feature, complaints, and personas. And if you're not familiar with Airtable, there is that feature called links, which basically allows you to connect records from different table tabs here, and keep a very granular repository of your data. So let me show you what I mean. For example, when I'm interviewing a person, the first thing I record is who that person is, what's his job role, email contact so I can get in touch with him later, uh, and which company he works for, as well as the feedback session and personas. So as you can see here, company, feedback, and personas, these are records that are connected to accordingly feedback, companies, and personas tab on the top. So I connected that person with the company in Trello, and this helps me keep a record of all the people that I interviewed that work in the same company. So let's say I want to add another person. Let's say I interview another person, John, that also works at Metrilo. I have to connect that record from the company tab. Now, when I go to the company tab and I expand that tab, I will not only see the first person, but would also see everyone else that has been linked to that record. And I'm using I'm using the same feature for collecting feedback sessions, so I can have multiple feedback sessions from the same person. Let's say have another feedback session with that person, and later when I go to that specific person, I can see all the feedback sessions with him. And this is really handy because it gives me an overview of how of all the data for that specific person. And let's say I've interviewed him in the early stage of the company, in the idea stage of the company, then I make a second interview with him at the pre-launch or the product stage of the company. I can keep a record of how his feedback has basically changed throughout the time and my product and the product. So okay, let's check the columns and what specifically I'm recording for each feedback session. First of all, I'm recording the feedback, and this is a text field, so I'm whatever. If I'm having a chat, I just copy paste the chat here. For the score, this is the score is how interested or satisfied that person. So, for example, with in this interview, this person was seemed quite interested or satisfied. In this case, since we don't have a product, it's just interested. If I have a second session with that person and for some reason something doesn't go well, I can record 1 star, which would mean that the person was not interested or satisfied on the second session. I'm also recording the date of the session, as I already mentioned, the stage of the session. I'm also taking some notes. And really important bit here is the attachment column, which is the main feedback repository. And Airtable is really good with that because you can link audio files, you can link video files. So as you can see here, I have screenshots, snapshots of all of our chats with that person. I also have an audio recording of our session with him, so I can refer to it and have a very, very high fidelity overview of this person's feedback. And Airtable is really good also with Dropbox. So something I do is I use QuickTime to record the audio session or screen sharing customer development session with that person, and which I keep on a file folder on my computer. But then I'm using a program. Just 1 second. I'm using an application called MicDrop Any, which allows me to sync that folder with my Dropbox. So when I save that session on my computer, it gets automatically synced with Dropbox. And then in Airtable, they do have a very nice integration with Dropbox. So I simply connect my Airtable to my Dropbox account, and I can link that recording right away in the table right away with pretty much no effort. So this is quite handy. So going back to the table, for the name of the session, I'm recording the name of the person and the specific product stage that the session was recorded in. So as you can see here, for the second session was the same person but in a different stage. So we have 2 different sessions. Then also have a features and complaints tab, so I can create records for specific features and complaints, and later on I can cross-reference which people have the same feature or complaint, and I can get in touch with them. So let me give you an example. Let's say I create a record for feature 1. Then I have another feedback session with a different person. John. Oops, apologies. Okay, so different person who has complained or requested the same feature. Now again, I'm using the same link features in Airtable. So when I go to the features tab, I can see all the feedback sessions that are related to that specific person. So you can see the feedback sessions here, and accordingly the people that requested that feature. So this is quite handy. Last but not least, I have the personas tab, and for each person, I'm also trying to identify him as which persona he falls under. So for example, with the first guy that I interviewed, he falls under the co-founder and CMO Colin persona. So I can see under personas, I can see all of the people that fall under that persona, and this is really good for cross-referencing feedback and just figuring out which persona is the best one based on the customer feedback you receive. So in terms of fields that I record for the persona, you can see in the blog post I've listed all of them, but basically I'm collecting stuff such as frustrations, their biggest problems, more information about that person. For example, Indian is a business guy who wants to start his new company. He currently has less than 1,000 email subscribers and uses the freemium version of MailChimp for email marketing, so on and so on. Brands that he often uses, preferred marketing channels, and then all of the just 1 second. So yeah, number of subscribers, acquisition strategy, and so on. So this is really handy, guys, if you get the hang of it, of how this database works. It's really helpful to have a overview of all the feedback session and all the people that you've interviewed, and it can be used for other stuff as well, like recording features and complaints when you move to the launch stage of your product. So let me know what you think. I hope you find it useful. You can use that template from the Airtable universe and make it your own, and hope you find it useful.